Okay, Rabbi Isai, let's go for it. Geschmack. Pleasure giving a shiur again to the koilel. Amira Lakum. What a geschmack sugya. Mama's getting involved. What a sugya. Okay, so let's continue. We discussed last week this idea that if somebody's maramish shalei b'derech tzivoy on something that I call the category 1 absolute hana, something that goes from no hana to hana, it's from the lights completely off, pitch dark, to light. Even if you would be trying to be maramish shalei b'derech tzivoy, it wouldn't help you. The hana would be usr. But if there was already some light there, and you were maramish shalei b'derech tzivoy, and the guy went and turned on the light further, then you would be allowed to get benefit from that category 3, I think we called it, Tosefes Hana. Okay, what if the guy did one action, which was this one action went and gave you the Tosefes Hana, and while doing that, it also gave you absolute Hana. Now, this is very common. Let's say, for example, the electricity goes out, and you go to the guy and you say, Rav Goy, we have look in my dining room. It's just a drop of light in my dining room. I have barely any light in my dining room. It's gefarlich. And the guy says, where's the? And the guy says, okay, I see. Here's the electricity box. And the guy flips on the electricity, and then the plata goes on. We said you could get enough from that light. Could you get enough from the plata? Could you get from all the stuff that's warmed up by the plata? Will that be okay? So Dr. Shlomo Zalman, that is okay because the plata is warmed up by a psik reisha. And we're going to see soon one of the Heterim is going to be psik reisha. Any hana that comes by a psik reisha from the guy will be allowed. Okay. Now, can someone get hana from something that the guy? It would be whatever rules apply to in Hilchos Shabbos and Bishul. Whatever applies to Bishul is going to apply to Bishul. Happens to be when it comes to, there's actually another famous heter of Shlomo Zalman. When in such a scenario, when it shuts off, we're not worried about chazara, and we allow things to re-warm up, even if they're completely cool. That's in the sugya of Bishul of chazara. There's actually a famous heter of Shlomo Zalman, ironically enough, on that.
Down entirely, it's going to be bishul or eat cooking.
No, we're talking about something that's fully cooked. Let's say it's something that's fully cooked, but now it goes, off the whatever. We don't need to get back into the bishul svara, but yes, even if it's not oida b'yoda or das lahaks, or Shlomo Zalman allows it without getting too involved. It has to be mvush kol tzarkei, but whatever. We'll one day. Okay, so let's keep it here. Now, can't get what won't get hana from something that the guy did for himself. So it really depends. If it's something like turning on the lights, which is the same thing whether you do it for one person or you do it for 100 people, assuming that you have one light switch for the room, and you flip on that light switch, the guy flips it on for himself. So even though it went from 0 to 100, it was absolute hana, there's no problem getting enough for it because it was adaita nafshe. The guy did it for himself. Happens to be it's not as simple when you have a room that has 20 light switches and the guy goes and turns on all 20 light switches. It kind of might depend. If it was a situation where he only needed one little corner, it would kind of depend on what's normal practice in that scenario. I think nowadays that electricity is getting cheaper with LED, etc. I think a lot of people do just flip on all the lights. I think in this base medrash, for example, how often do people come in and only turn on that side? I think most of the time when people use it, most of the time people flip on all the lights. But it's a case study. You can't say this as an absolute rule. Because if it's a place where it's normal not to flip on all the lights, it's normal just to flip on one side, and the guy flipped on all the lights, there might be a Shema Yarba issue even with lights. But classically, there's no Shema Yarba. A regular bedroom, there's no Shema Yarba. And if the guy turned on that one light, you're allowed to get enough from it. In contrast, if the guy boiled up hot water for his coffee, now I'm the good Jewish friend of this guy, can I have a cup of coffee? Because the guy flipped on the kubkum. So we say, no, you're not allowed to. Why? Because we're chayshish that Shema Yarba. Maybe the guy gave extra water for me, and therefore it'd be allowed for me to get water from the guy. What if the guy didn't know I existed? The guy didn't know I existed, and the guy went and heated up water not knowing I existed, and now I want some water. Now it's okay because there's no chashash of Shema Yarba if the guy didn't know I existed. I want to tell you something that a mashkiach once told me, and I want to know if you guys think yafa pasak hamashkiach or lo yafa pasak hamashkiach. So mashkiach had told me, he was schmoozing, we were hawking halachi, he's a kishmaka guy, and he tells me, I have a nice brewed coffee every Shabbos morning. Whenever this hotel has a program, whatever, I have a nice kishmaka brewed coffee every Shabbos morning. And I say, Ramosha? No, I'm not samich on the Ramosha. Okay, so how do you have the brewed coffee? So he says, the kitchen staff, the goyim, they brew up a pot of coffee. And when they brew up a pot of coffee, so, there's enough, the pot does like 15, 17 cups. There's only 12 goyim working here. So I have a cup. So is that good? It seems pretty gefährlich. No Shema Yarba. So I asked him, Shema Yarba, you're not allowed to. So he wanted to taina that since they always just do a full pot, that's the mahalach. The mahalach there is to always do a full pot. Memela, there's no Shema Yarba because they're going to do a full pot. It doesn't make a difference whether there's 10 goyim that want or 12 goyim that want. They do a full pot. So therefore it'd be allowed. Is it Yafa Pasta Kamashkiach or Lo Yafa? I think it's actually Lo Yafa Pasta Kamashkiach because his svara is a good svara. I'm asking with the svara. But if Chazal said they were geyser on something that is possible of being marba, therefore, they're geyser that you can't have hana from such a thing because there's a chashash that maybe the guy did it for you. Once again, we're going to seemingly be asked. Let's say the guy knew you existed and the guy heating up water, but we had no reason to assume that he did it for you. It's asur because Shema Yarba. So too over here as well. You're right. I don't have a reason to assume that the guy did extra coffee because of you. And it's true that every day of the week that they do it, they do a full pot. So there is some svara to what he's saying, but I don't know. There might be a gezerah of Chazal, and if there's a gezerah of Chazal, I'm not convinced Yafa Pasuk HaMashkiach. I think Lo Yafa Pasuk HaMashkiach, but I think it's a good svara. I just don't think it holds through. Fine. Weiter. So, can we talk once we're in the hotels for a second? The Pesach program, everybody to go and schlep up the steps, that's going to not be geschmack. They're not paying $50,000 to take the steps. So we're going to stick a guy into the elevator, and when you want to go up, you go to the guy and you say 5th floor. Oh, no, you put your 5 fingers up so you don't say it. And then the guy goes and presses the 5th floor for you. Is that okay, or is that the Amira Lakum program? So the Chayra, B'Pashtus, is the Amira Lakum program, and we'll see. Maybe I'm going to try to squeeze out maybe a heter later on, but definitely the Pashtus coming in. That's going to be a problem because what's going on? Even if you manage to be Meram Shalei B'Derech Tzivoy, even if you're managed to be Meram Shalei B'Derech Tzivoy to this elevator man, we'll call him, but Lemaisa, you're getting hana from his action. This is absolute hana, and l'chayra, it is a problem. Now, what about if you go to a building, there's not a specific guy for this. I'm staying at a hotel for Shabbos, for whatever reason. And, I'm on the 24th floor. Anything's better than floor 0, that's for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see any random guy walking in. He's going to ask me, what floor? And I'm going to be like, what floor are you going to? 14. Me too. And you'll take it at least, take a hitch up to the 14th floor. Take wherever the guy is going. Don't do anything. And I'll walk from the 14th floor. Could one do that? Is that a problem? So, or maybe even better, you'll see somebody who's actually going to your floor because you recognized him, and even better, and you go up. Is that okay? So, Klape Amira Lakum, that would not be a problem because there's no Shema Yarba in terms of going up to your floor. He's going up to his floor, and you're going to the same floor. There's no Shema Yarba. Now, are there other issues? So there are some other issues. The Minchas Yitzchak says it's Zilzal Shabbos. Moshe Feinstein says it's Maris Ayin, that you told the guy what to press. So there's maybe some potential issues of the sensor and the next one, extra additional electrical current being used for your weight to bring it up. So there are some potential issues. I'll discuss a little bit later when I'm going to try to tweak out a heter of some sort, whatever. But the pashtus for sure is problem. This is not allowed. Okay? there might be some.
It's a problem, not because of Amira Lakum.
Not Amira Lakum. Amira Lakum, it's perfectly fine. The question is, we'll get into it now for a second. Zilzal Shabbos. So Minchas Yitzchak says Zilzal Shabbos. I'm asking there is an element of Zilzal Shabbos, but I think it's a much lower level of Zilzal Shabbos than at the time that Minchas Yitzchak said it. Because now that we have Shabbos elevators in place, I think the first person that made a Shabbos elevator was probably Zilzal Shabbos, to have that whole concept. Going into elevator on Shabbos. But nowadays, the Shabbos elevators are nimsa b'harbe mekoymis. They're all over the place. Therefore, the concept of going into elevator isn't a big Zilzal Shabbos anymore. Maybe it's a little bit because we know that there's no Shabbos elevator here. So I hear why somebody would want to ask her, but it's definitely not a pasha Zilzal Shabbos. But Ramesh is that it's an issue of Marasayan that you could talk here. It's an issue of Marasayan. But once again, if everybody saw what happened, if everybody saw one place, you did it loudly. What floor you're going to? Okay, maybe, but still not pashut. The most of the pashas is it's a problem, but maybe there's something to tweak out of there. Okay, let's go a little bit weiter. Now, if you tell a guy, could you get me a chair from the machzan? And the guy goes to the machzan to get the chair, and the guy turns on the light. Can I now get use of that light? Answer, yes. Because why did the guy turn on the light? He did it at Deited Nafshe. He did it for himself. It's a lot easier for the guy to get the chair when he turns on the light. So he turned on the light, beseder. Now, it can't be a code word. I can't say, the room in the back, could you get me a chair? And the guy's like, yeah, sure, no problem. He just flips on the light. Then that doesn't work.
But if the room is pitch black and you can't see any chair in there, the only way you can get a chair is switching on the light. It's not a Deited Nafshe, but you tell him to get the chair, you also tell him to switch the light.
So usually, in the high majority of cases, it's possible to feel your way around and get a chair. Geschmack? No, definitely not. Especially if you leave the door open here and the door open there, you get a little light from the hallway. It's almost always possible to find the chair. But enochinami, if it was absolutely impossible to get the chair, then enochinami, it would probably be a problem. But usually it's possible, it's just very, very difficult. Now, what you're going to want to do later and read in that room, that might be totally impossible. But Lemaisa, you could get that hana from the guy who opened it. Now listen, there's going to be a case a little bit different. Next case is, we said we need more chairs. So now I go with the guy to the machzan, and we're both going to bring the chairs. And the guy opens it. Why is the guy opening it? Because he wants to be able to see the chairs that he has to get. Now the person can say that's a problem. Well, what's the difference? Well, he's doing it for both of us. Okay, don't we generally have a rule when a guy does something for both of us? We generally understand that he's the ikar. If we go into a room, me and the guy, we both go in the room to read. I go to my couch, he goes to his couch, and the guy flips up in the light. We say it's ganz fine. Because the guy's doing a daitel nafshe. Everybody has, their ikar motives are selfish, right? Why by the chair is it a problem? Because why is he getting the chair? He's getting the chair for me. And since the end result, the teitzah that I'm going after is to get the chair for me, so now when the guy goes and turns on the light to get the chair, and I'm there.
Why would it make a difference if you're there or not? Even when you're sitting by himself, he's getting the chair for you.
No, because when he's going by himself, I don't really care if he goes around in the dark to get to the chair, or he turns on the light to get the chair. So for that, it's for his own purpose. But now that he's going and it's for both of us to get the chairs, so now we're kind of equal. The tiebreaker is what's the end result for. And if the end result is for me, then it is a problem. However, just let's do a contrast. If I sent the Jewish waiter and the Goyish waiter to get chairs, and now the Goyish waiter goes and turns on the light for the two of them to bring back chairs, now it's okay. Because, once again, once they're equal, once the two parties are equal, we say the guy's ikar kavana is himself. But in the example, when it's the individual and the guy, so now the parties aren't equal because the end result is really for me. There's it's definitely one could argue on this, but if you think about it, it makes sense and it's geschmack. Let's just take a step off to talk about that point. A little bit out of order that I planned, but once we're jumping into this, if a guy goes and turns on a light for a room for himself and for others, I don't care if it's himself and 10 Jews, we say that he's doing it for himself, and therefore the Jews can get hana from that room. I'm not talking about where the guy is serving the Jews. If the guy is serving the Jews, we get back similar to those chairs, which might be a problem. But let's say the guy is a guest in the hotel, and there's 10 Jews that are guests in the hotel, and he goes and flips on the lights of the lobby. So everybody's allowed to get hana. It's because the guy did it for himself. Now, what if the guy is not doing it for himself? He works in the hotel. So he's turning on the lights for the guests of the hotel. So who did he turn the lights on? So we generally say that the guy turned on the lights. So if it's all Jews, it's obviously for the Jews, asur b'hana. If it's all goyim, it's obviously he did it for the goyim and it's mutter for hana. What if it's mostly Jews? So we say he did it for the Jews. What if it's mostly goyim? We say he did it for the goyim. And mostly, if he did it for the Jews, problem. Did it for the goyim, it's no problem. There's exceptions to this. What if we have a chashuv a guy? Let's say there's a convention, there's a bunch of 10 Jews and Donald Trump. They're having a fundraising event, whatever. 10 Jews and Donald Trump are in the room. And you go and you turn on the light. We say that light, it's mutter b'hana, because the ikr that you did is you turned it on for Donald Trump, not for the 10 Jews. So we don't always follow numbers. And it works in the reverse as well, by the way. The chumrah, let's say you have 10 goyim and bibi. And the guy goes and turns on the light for the 10 stam goyim and bibi, Netanyahu. So then we say he did it for Netanyahu, and therefore it would be asur to get hana from that light.
50-50?
50-50 we asur. Fine. Now,
how could we decide what's the magid?
Because we really he's doing it for both. So we're gonna assume the ikr. We have to put the ikr. It's one action. So this one action, it goes basur the right. Now, what you're asking, I think, is something I'm going to bring an example in a second, which is a very interesting example. And it's very hard to pinpoint the exact cutoff point of where one case ends and the next one begins. Let's like this. Ramosha Feinstein discusses a case where the electric goes out in the city. It's a city where there's 80% Jews, 20% Goyim. And, Muncie, whatever, right? 80% Jews, 20% Goyim. And now the electric company comes and turns on the electricity for the city. So is that electricity, assuming there's going to be other Heterim, by the way, obviously we're going to have chayla and whatever, but hospitals and chaylim and all that, but put those other Heterim aside for a second. Let's just view these facts that we have in front of us, assuming there was no other Heterim. So could we get a hana from that light? Because it was, based on what I said so far, you would say no. Because it was mostly Jews and a minority of Goyim. However, Dr. Moshe, since the electric company had to turn it on for the Goyim anyways, and they were really turning it on for themselves, they had a chiyuv, they had a legal requirement to turn it on. Therefore, for the Goyim, therefore, Memela, it's the Hanaz Mutter for everybody, because they had a legal requirement to turn it on. However, Ramosha Feinstein would say that in the case,
requirement for the goyim is for the Jews.
Huh?
The same legal requirement to switch it on for the goyim is the same for the Jews.
Correct, but since those goyim existed, and there was a legal requirement, therefore they had to do it, copy themselves. I mean, you're actually getting to the point. I'm just going to contrast in a second. You'll see, but
every person who works at a hotel has
exactly.
a requirement to-
So that's the question that I'm going to say in a second. It's exactly what I want to ask. Whereas Ramosha would say that in the case of 60 Jews and 40 goyim in the hotel, now it's a problem. Now, what exactly is the difference between when you have 60 Jews and 40 goyim in the hotel, where we say that it's a problem, it was done for the Jews, whereas by the electric company, Ramosha says the guy you had to do it for the goyim, and Memela, the Jews are allowed to get hana. Obviously, as you're asking, the guy working at the hotel had to turn it on for the goyim anyways. Even if those Jews didn't exist, he would be turning on the light for the goyim. So it seems to be the answer is like this, but it's very hard to be mechalik. It seems to be like this. At the end of the day, why did the guy turn it on by the hotel? He turned it on for these 100 guests. That's what he did. He turned it on for the 100 guests. When you turn it on for 100 guests, we look who are the Rav. However, by the electric company, the electric company has a chiyuv to turn it on, not as much for their customers, but for themselves. They have a personal legal requirement to turn it on as long as there's anybody who needs it. The chiluk is very thin, I agree.
It's 100% Jews and
Oh, if 100%,
They still have the Shiur from the legal.
Correct, but their chiv is being driven by the Jews. It's not as simple. But I agree, this is a very, very fine chiluk, and I would not be surprised to see somebody argue with it. But that's how Moshe explains. Fine, let's go weiter. Now, the Aruch Shulchan says the minhag was you get your light on. What do? You invite the guy in for a beer. And the guy came, he got a beer. The guy turned on the light and drank a beer. Lit a candle back then, but nowadays turned on the light.
Make sure you don't put it out afterwards.
Yeah, because the stories will come back 100 times. The horse, that story, the fair, the animal, the behemoth. Yeah, okay, fine. That's a famous story. Whatever, not for now. But I thought you were referring to. But the guy goes and turns on the light and drinks the beer. It's all good. It's fine. This is okay. And once again, why? Because why did the guy turn on the light? It was Adaita Nafshe. Who wants to drink a beer in the dark? So the guy turns on your light, drinks the beer, it's fine. But one has to be careful that this is actually what's going on. Because there's a fine line between the guy's understanding of, I would love the lights on to drink a beer, versus like, this is a deal. If the guy's viewing it like this is the deal, like we have a trade. You come in and turn on my lights and I give you a beer, that's a problem. But if the guy's turning on the light because he wants a beer, that's fine. So those cases you have to be careful that you're in the category of the guy's actually turning on to enjoy the beer. Now what happens if the guy, you're in a house, whatever, the guy's there, the guy came for the Suda, for whatever reason, and the guy goes and shuts off the light, or even the maid or whatever shuts off the light and says, oh shoot, Shabbos, and the guy turns the lights back on. And when the guy shut the lights off, it was pitch dark. Can you now get hana from those lights? If you think about it, why did the guy turn it on? It's for the Jews. Is it a problem? So the Poskim say it's not a problem because, I think it's a Prima Gadim, I think says it, that it's not a problem because why did the guy turn on the lights? The reason that the guy turned on the lights, his ikar reason was he didn't want to feel stupid. He didn't want to feel embarrassed that he messed up the Suda for the Jews. And therefore, he's protecting his own emotional well-being by turning those lights back on, because he'll feel like a real idiot if he messed up the Suda, and Memela, he's allowed to turn the lights back on. However, contrast this, a very similar case with a different psak. If you tell the guy, Peter, turn on, Shabbos is starting at 5, make sure the lights are on. And now what happens is that, you show up to the meal, at 6 o'clock, the lights are off, and Peter says, oh, shoot. And he goes and quickly turns on the lights. Now the poskim are going to say that light is usur. Now what's the chiluk? Either way, the guy. So we view differently what the guy did. In the first case, the action of the guy was just restoring the light that was already there. We don't view it as much of a creative act, because before the guy got involved, the light was there. Whereas in the second case, we're going to view it as if the guy created the light for the Jews, maybe even to stop his own embarrassment, perhaps. But at the end of the day, we view it as he created the light for the Jews. But I agree, once again, this chiluk is very fine, and there's what to debate, but that's what comes out from the Paiskim. Okay, now, what happens if the light on the fridge is on? Can't open the fridge. Lights on. This is back in the day when the only issue with the fridge was the light. Nowadays we have lots of issues with the fridges. But let's bring ourselves back to the time, or you have that 20-year-old fridge, whatever. The issue with the fridge is the light. Yeah? Forgot to shut off the light. What are we going to do? I need to get the cholent. Not cholent from the fridge. I need to get the drink. I need to get the Coke for the Shabbos Suda. What am I going to do? So, Dr. Moshe Feinstein, one of the Heterim that we're going to discuss soon is psik resha. If I tell the guy to do a mutter action and it results in an asur action, it's allowed. So I could tell the guy, open the door of the fridge. I didn't tell him to turn the light on. All I told him to do was open the door of the fridge. And now the light goes on. I never told him to do that. That's just the psik resha. Psik resha is fine, and it's not a problem that the light turned on. And by the way, turning off the light is going to be a term as well. Fine. So that's Rishon Zalman. Rishon Zalman says, well, wait a second. This is not a psik resha. This is a ma'aseh b'yadayim. This is how you turn on the light. You know what the light switch is to the fridge light? It's opening the door. That's the light switch for the fridge, for the fridge light. And therefore, he calls it a Maisi Yadayim, not Psik Resha. He says that's the way you do it, and therefore he does not allow it. But the Maisi the Minik is to be Mekel, like Ramesh Feinstein, even though, by the way, I want to add to it, Rav Yashav is also Machmer in this.
They're not nichel, you don't need the light. You don't need the light in the fridge.
Ein a chinami, but you can't tell a guy to turn on a light, even if it's nichel. If you told him, it's a problem. You can't. Why you would do it, I don't know, but whatever. Let's say I wanted to tell the guy, turn on the light, and the guy turns on the light, and it's nichel. Was I did it iser? I did it iser. So Zav Rav Sham Zalman, when you tell the guy open the fridge, you're telling him turn on the light. And he's going to the fridge light switch, and he's opening the door. That's the light switch for the fridge, and he's turning it on. That's what Shem Zaman holds the mice, so we don't pass in that way. Fine. Let's keep it going. Yeah. If the guy has a mutter way and usher way of performing an action, and the guy decides to do the usher way, that's adaita the nafshi. That's the guy's decision, and I'm allowed to get enough from that. It's not a problem. So let's say, for example, I tell the guy wash the dishes, and the guy uses the sponge, and he uses boiling hot water. I don't care what type of system you have, even if it's an asatika system, he uses the boiling hot water. It is allowed because the guy could have washed it however he wants. Now, if the guy knows he's my cleaner, and he knows there's strict rules in this house that I've set, that you always must use the sponge and boiling hot water, then when I tell him wash the dishes, I'm telling him wash the dishes with a sponge and boiling hot water. Then it's the problem. But if I don't have specific set rules, and I just say wash the dishes, and the guy, you're right, he could spend 2 minutes on it with the boiling hot water and the sponge, or he could spend 4 minutes with the cold water without the sponge. He decides to spend 2 minutes to do it with the boiling hot water and the sponge. That is allowed. It is the guy's decision. Now, if the mutter way is completely unreasonable, then this heter does not apply. So, for example, let's go back to our Amira Lakum Pesach program. So, in the Amira Lakum Pesach program, could I tell the guy, you have two choices. You could either press the button to get everybody up to the 8th floor, or you could carry them. That already is too far. Washing dishes, you could wash the dishes with cold water. It'll work. But when you tell the guy either press the button or carry everybody up to the 8th floor, that's too far. That is not going to work. Now, but for example, a guy in a wheelchair. We're going to have other hetem for the guy in the wheelchair anyways. But let's just focus on this Nakuda. If we tell the guy, you have two choices with the guy in the wheelchair. You could either press the button to send him up, or you could carry him up to the 2nd or 3rd floor. Okay, that's taka a normal thing. Meaning, it would be a normal thing if the elevator was broken, for example. It'd be normal for a couple of the workers in the hotel to carry the guy in the wheelchair up to the 3rd floor. It's not normal to carry your whatever plump ball bus up to the 8th floor. That's not normal. But to carry a guy in a wheelchair up to the 2nd or 3rd floor, if the elevator, that's a normal thing. Now, do you know for a fact they're going to go in the elevator versus carrying them up? Yes, you know for a fact. But that doesn't make a difference. If it's something that could be done, and it's not something beyond the realm of ever happening, so Memela, it would be okay. Now, let's say, you're staying, you're in a hotel, right? And you tell the kitchen staff, you're arranging your food to be warmed up, don't worry, double wrapped, etc. They're warming up your food. And you ask the waiter, after the food's warmed, bring it up to my hotel room, right? So if you're on the 3rd floor, let's say, for example. Now, good and well the guy is bringing it from the main floor. He's taking the elevator. There's no question about it. He's taking a tray of your food. He's taking it on the elevator. That's obviously what he's going to do. But that would be okay, because the guy could walk up 3 flights of steps and bring your food. And if the guy could walk up 3 flights of steps to bring your food, memela, it would be allowed. However, let's say you're on the 28th floor. Now, if you're on the 28th floor, and you tell the guy, bring up the food to me, get the food warmed up, and bring it up to my hotel room. Now, there's no question about it. This guy, it's not even that you know it. If you told the guy to bring it up to the 28th floor, he wouldn't. he would say, no, that's too much. I don't do that type of stuff. And therefore, it's completely unreasonable, and it would be a problem. What about the 8th floor? I mean, it might depend on which country you're in and what type of worker you're talking about. I think in a lot of places, if the elevator was broken, they would bring up your food to the 8th floor, and that might be fine. Whereas the cutoff point is going to depend on the mentality of the people that we're dealing with, whether it's beyond some place you want to use as a litmus test. Let's say the elevator was broken for the next 4 hours. What would they do? Would they bring it up the steps, or would they say, no, I don't do this? If it's I don't do this, so Mamela, you can't tell the guy to bring it up the elevator because it's just, you're telling him, bring it up to my floor, you're telling him to bring it up the elevator. Now, fine. I did this already? Fine. Okay, now let's go through some of the Heterim. These are some of the Heterim that you could do Amira Lakum on a deraisa for when you are in these situations. So one of the Heterim we've discussed already, so we'll just go through it quickly, is Psik Reisha. So when I tell the guy to do a mutter action and an usr action results, so to speak, I'm allowed to get enough from that usr action. It's just a Psik Reisha. One very a couple common examples. One is, let's say you have a dud system for heating up your water. Not a Yonkers gas system, but you have a dud hot water tank system. So why can't you use the hot water on Shabbos? What's wrong with using hot water on Shabbos? So what's wrong with using hot water on Shabbos is when you let hot water out, cold water enters that boiling hot tank, and the cold water that enters gets boiled up. But what are you actually doing your main thing? You're just taking out hot water. There was no isser in taking out the hot water. The isser is the new cold water that goes into the tank, gets cooked. So could you tell the guy, could you turn on the hot water to give give the baby a bath? So the answer is yes. Because when you told the guy, there was nothing usser about the guy turning on the hot water. The only isser was what's going to be a psik reisha, and memela it would be allowed. Another example, the lights are out, right? The electricity is out, right? We discussed a little bit of this before. The electricity is out. So, and I have a heter. Let's say the kids are scared of the dark, right? The kids are scared of the dark. We're going to see chayla, kids scared of the dark. That's going to be a heter. So I go to the guy. Now be careful what you say. If I go to the guy and I say, listen, guy, the lights are out. My kids are scared. The lights are out. Here's the electric box. And the guy goes and turns it on. Could I get enough from the plata? Yeah. Why? Because the guy when the guy turned on the lights, yes, the guy did the job of turning on the lights. And it was just a psik reisha that caused the plata to go on. And memela, psik reisha is fine. But if I told the guy, my electricity's off, and the guy goes and turns on the electricity, now the plata is going to be usher to get enough from. Because when I said turn on the electricity, that includes turn on the plata. And memela, the guy turned on the plata, I can't get enough from that plata. So if I told him turn on the lights, I get enough from the plata. If I told him turn on the electricity, then this is what he did.
But he's turning on the electricity for the kids. He knows that.
Oh, okay. So we're going to get to that in a second. Now, you said he knows it. It's actually interesting. Something that a lot of people don't know. The Mishnah Brewer says, in that case, for example, the example that I just chose on purpose, you actually are meant to tell the guy, turn on, I need the lights on for the kids. And by the way, you don't even need, I was just doing it with Merames, but the truth is, you're better without the remes, because when you do the remes, you'll probably get it wrong. Forget the remes. Do it first. You're better off doing it first. The lights are off in my apartment, and my kids are scared. Could you turn on the lights? Here's the electric switch. That's the best way of doing it. Now, he'll do it. He's turning on for the kids. Once he turns on for the kids, everybody can get hana. And once he's turning on the lights, the plata goes on, no problem, you get enough from the plata. But when you're telling him to turn on the plata, it's very difficult to say it's a psik reisha that the plata is going on when that's what you told him to do. So a lot of people don't know this. Very kedai, tell him. And once again, you're right, don't even be merames, because when you're merames, you might get it wrong. Tell him first, the lights are off and the kids are scared. Can you turn on my lights? Here's the switch to my electric box. And the meal that way, it's going to be much better. Fine. Next. Now, fine. By the way, just the one point that I forgot to mention, when it comes to the specific ratio, the Truma Sedeshin is the one who brings that you're allowed to rely on the specific ratio. The Grad doesn't hold of it, but the Meister Mishabura brings it down, passes like the Truma Sedeshin, that you're allowed to do the specific ratio. Something I should have said in the beginning. Fine. Now, Rebbe Kalas, I listened to Shiur, he asked the steer in Shlomo Zalman, that I think it looked like Gilon might have been thinking about this. No? So he asked the steer, why by the fridge did we say that when you say turn on the fridge, that Shlomo Zalman says that it's not a psik ratio turning on the light. But when you turn on the electricity box, now all of a sudden it's allowed because it's a psik ratio turning on the plata. Is that a psik? You're turning it on. But I actually don't like the shayla. I think the answer is pretty clear. The answer is l'chayra that when you say turn on the fridge, that's how you turn on the light. The light switch of the fridge is opening the door. However, the on button of the plata isn't in the electricity box. The on button of the plata is when you plug it in. So doing it with the electricity box, that's not the on button of the plata. So therefore, when you turn on the electricity box, that's not the way to turn on the plata. Memela, the plata is considered a psik ratio. And I think that's the answer. Okay, let's go to another heter. Heter number 2.
Another difference.
Yeah?
The refrigerator, opening the fridge and turning on the light is done in the same place. It's not separated into different things.
Mm-hmm. You think the location, the proximity and location.
The location is the actual opening of the fridge, that's what's turning on the light.
And when I flip on the switch, I'm not turning on the plata?
No, it's not that when you turn on the light, that turns on the plata. It's a third party.
No, but when I turn on the electric switch, I'm flipping up the electric switch.
That's two different things. It's not that turning on the light turns on the plata. It's a third party doing both.
Is that third party? I mean, it's pretty direct.
That's not turning on the light. It's you touching the switch, which also does the light and also does the other thing. Opening up the refrigerator.
But it also opens up the refrigerator for me to get food. It doesn't only turn on the light. It also gets me food when I open the refrigerator. I hear what you're trying to say. I'm just, maybe. Okay. Another heter for Amira Lakum is Ben Hashmashis. During Ben Hashmashis, Amira Lakum is mutter for almost anything. You know, it's mutter for tzarch mitzvah, it's mutter for Einik Shabbos, it's mutter for tzar. Last week we were zeicha to find one case where you don't have a heter. You don't have a heter during Ben Hashmashis. Our video of Kabbalah Shabbos. Maybe you don't have a heter of Ben Hashmashis, but for Kamat any tzarach, we have a heter of Amir Lakum during Ben Hashmashis. Now, how long is Ben Hashmashis? So, Ramosha Feinstein in one place says 40 minutes, and in another place there's 30 minutes. If you check up the Orcha Shabbos, which is right in front of Gilon over here, he'll say 13 and a half minutes. The Gra, 13 and a half minutes. I heard from Ray Callis, he wanted to say something which in Svara sounds very good. He said, you have 72 minutes. What, Rabbeinu Tam is not a Shita? Rabbeinu Tam's a nobody? We're going to see soon you're allowed to pick Shitas in Amira Lakum. So Rabbeinu Tam's not, most Rishonim and Achronim hold like Rabbeinu Tam. How could you say it's not a Shita? Immediately you should have 72 minutes. Lamaisa, and he says it's La Halacha. Lamaisa in Svara, I totally agree with Rory Callis. The problem is it doesn't seem like this is what the Paiskim are, I don't know why. I don't know why the Paiskim aren't going this way. It's first, you see Rav Moshe is not going this way. The Paiskim didn't go this way. I don't know exactly why. One thing to know is, Rakel says it's la halacha, so l'maisa, in any tzara gadol situation, we certainly, we have this idea of relying up to 72 minutes, but I would not be quick to give this heter, because it seems to be against the Paiskim, even though it seems to be with svaras, it's tzarachin exactly. Now, one thing to note, just it's a little bit of an ironic one, but it happens. One of the things that you could ask the guy to do is if a woman forgets to light Shabbos candles, she could have the guy light the Shabbos candles for her. And that would be allowed. Just don't make a bracha because you didn't do lahadlak there, you didn't do the adlaka. Okay, another heter to discuss is choila. Now, what type of choila we're talking about? Obviously, a choila sheish by sakana, somebody that's pekuk nefesh, you do it yourself, you don't need the guy. But what about by a choila she'im by sakana? Chazal wearing geyser, the isser Amira Lakum by a choila she'im by sakana. Who's a choila she'im by sakana? Somebody that belongs in bed, even if maybe they can't get to bed because taking care of kids or whatever, but somebody that belongs in bed, or somebody that has something that's paining their whole, has some severe pain that affects their whole body, that's all they could think of, it makes them ois mensch, this pain, that will be a choy l'shem b'sakana, and one could ask the goy to do the races to help them. And not only, that's by adults. By a baby or a young child, we'll discuss what a young child in a second, even if they're a little sick, they have a din of a chol l'shem b'sakana, and you can ask a guy to do the rices to help them. So let's say you have the baby who has a diaper rash, you could ask the guy to go and rub the thick memerech the rice cream on the baby, it's not a problem. Or you could ask the guy to drive to the pharmacy and buy the whatever for the chol l'shem b'sakana, it works. Up to what age do we say this? So the poskim go over all the way from age 3 to 9. Most of them from 6 to 9. It really depends on the strength of the kid. For a strong 6-year-old, that's the cutoff point. For a not as strong kid, up to 9. And if you're dealing with a kid that's a weak kid, then you have up to 12 for the weak kid.
To 12 or whatever.
Up to 12 for the weak kid. Okay. And once again, you're going to pretty much judge based on the tzarech. I mean, if the kid is, depending on how much of a need it's going to be and how weak the kid is, you'll be able to judge and figure it out.
Necessity.
Correct. It could be turning on the light. Could be turning on the light. And by the way, kids being scared, Chazal reckon with that as a real serious thing. They were saying this way before the psychologists said that there was the issue of kids being scared. They say it's pekuach nefesh for a kid to be super scared. For hundreds of years, people were learning this din and saying, huh? What? And now you see these kids that were scared as kids for whatever, this, that, whatever, have a much higher likelihood of nervous breakdown or suicide later on in life. Something that was hard to understand for hundreds of years now has become much more understood. Now, we say that, important point, we say everybody knows, famous hakol choylin eitzel hakar. Everybody is a choylin when it comes to cold weather. So what does that mean? What's cold? So the Shulchan Aruch says in those cold countries, so you're allowed to ask the guy to turn on the heat for a kid. And when it's very cold, then you could allow for an adult. What is very cold? So it's very, what is it? The Or L'Tzion says when you put water outside and the water freezes. That's pretty cold.
So below zero.
That's below zero, but I don't even think it's true when it's 30, Fahrenheit talk. Under 32, if you think in Brooklyn, you leave a cup outside, it really is frozen at 31 degrees. It depends how long you leave it, maybe. I wonder. We're talking pretty cold, right? The Aruch HaShulchan says no. There's no set rule. It depends on the person, depends on their sensitivity. And what's the difference I was debating between like Yerushalayim versus New York. It's very interesting. On one hand, if you go to 40 degrees, right, Fahrenheit, somebody could translate for me. 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's hell.
Huh?
That's hell.
No,
New York,
Fahrenheit.
New Yorkers will say.
95 is 35.
No,
Oh,
40
it's
Fahrenheit. That's
Like
also
8 or 9.
40 cold. 40 degrees.
Like 8 or 9.
8 or 9 degrees, something like that, yeah? 40 degrees. So in New York, you tell them it's 40 degrees, so like, not so cold. In Yerushalayim, 40 degrees, we're freezing. All right? So maybe 40 degrees is a problem in Yerushalayim, but not in New York. But I was thinking on the other hand, you go to somebody's house. Everybody's house that you walk in New York, it's nice, it's fine, it's geschmack. You go to Yerushalayim, some places you go inside, it's cold inside. In New York, there's no such thing as people wearing a coat in their house. In Yerushalayim, it's a normal thing. People wear a coat in the house. Yeah, a lot of people leave their houses cold, and they stick under the blankets a hot water tub to keep the bed warm. Hot water bottle to keep the bed warm. In New York, that's unheard of. So maybe when the house is a certain level, maybe in New York that's already a problem, but in Eretz Yisrael it's not a problem. So it's very hard to set exact rules. And Lamaisa, I guess we'll leave it over here because we're running out of time. But let me just add with one or two more things on this. The Kaf HaChaim says that whoever's machmer in this will be Zeichet Harichas Yamim. But Lamaisa, the rules are, if it's cold, you're allowed to turn on the heat. And what cold it is. Thank you. I'll have the guy do it, and we'll talk about AC if we get together again, whatever, we could continue with AC.